13. Paolo Rossi. After making the squad in 1978, Rossi led Liazzurri to glory in 1982. However, his return came in the wake of the 1980 Totonero betting scandal that rocked Serie A, which Rossi received a 3-year ban for actions he allegedly undertook while at Perugia. He had his 3-year ban for match fixing cut to 2 years, thus returning conveniently in time to make the squad, but looked out of form and off the pace in the first group stage. Nonetheless, Rossi scored a hat-trick in a memorable 3-2 win over a Brazil side that featured such names as Socrates and Zico in the second group stage. A brace was enough to see off Poland in the semis, and he would score again in the final as Italy defeated West Germany 3-1. Rossi's performances would see him win the Golden Ball, the Golden Boot, and the Ballon d'Or, not bad for a player who'd started the season with a ban. 12. Miroslav Klose. The Polish-born striker is Germany's all-time top goal scorer with a total of 71 goals. Klose is also the World Cup's leading goal scorer with 16 goals and the only player in the tournament's history to appear in 4 consecutive semi-finals. There was really nothing particularly remarkable about the former Lazio and Bayern Munich strikers' play, but the World Cup stage seemed to make him come alive. 11. Dino Zoff. Zoff was a stalwart presence between the sticks for Italy, making 112 appearances and featuring at 3 World Cups. The shot-stopper was finally able to call himself a world champion in 1982 after 2 disappointing tournaments in 1974 and 1978 respectively. Zoff won football's top prize in Spain 1982 as Italy's captain, and in the process he became the oldest player and captain in history to win the World Cup at the age of 40. 10. Bobby Moore. The defender played in a trio of World Cups for the Three Lions and led England to glory on home soil in 1966. Lauded by Pele as the greatest defender he has ever played against, Moore was the perfect leader on the pitch and a solid rock in the backline for the England national team. Football fans will forever remember the images of Bobby wiping the mud and sweat from his hands on the blue velvet tablecloth before shaking the hand of Queen Elizabeth II as the monarch presented him with the Jules Rimet trophy. 9. Johan Cruyff. The Netherlands had a formidable squad in the total football era, but it all seemed to flow through Cruyff, the sides beating hearts. One of the greatest players to never win the World Cup, Cruyff scored 4 goals on the world's biggest stage in 1974, his one and only World Cup tournament, as he led the Oranje to second place and was named the tournament's most outstanding player. He would help Netherlands qualify for the 78 tournament in Argentina, but made a decision not to participate, later revealing it was because of a kidnap attempt on his family while living in Barcelona. 8. Zinedine Zidane. Although the final memory for many of Zidane is the unfortunate headbutt incident in the final of the 2006 edition, it's hard to argue that he doesn't belong near the top of any list of best ever World Cup performers. Zidane played in 3 World Cups for France and helped them win the prize in 1998. He scored 2 goals in that final and was arguably the best player in Europe between 1998 and 2002. Zizou, as he is affectionately known by many French and Algerians, was snubbed in the victorious 98 World Cup for Best Player, but finally won it in 2006 after captaining France straight to the final. 7. Just Fontaine. With perhaps the best goals per game average of any player ever, the Moroccan-born Fontaine scored 30 goals for France in only 21 appearances. At the 1958 World Cup, the forward scored 13 goals in 6 games, including 4 against defending champions West Germany, to scoop the Golden Boot award. That single tournament, at which he formed an effective partnership with Polish-French colleague Raymond Kopa, was enough to put him 4th on the all-time World Cup scorers list. Fontaine is also the record holder for the most consecutive matches with a goal at the World Cup, with 6. 6. Franz Beckenbauer. Beckenbauer first came to prominence in 1966, scoring 4 times as West Germany reached the final despite being defeated by England. He played in 3 tournaments with West Germany and is widely regarded as one of the finest defenders to ever play the game. By 1974, he was the captain of his nation and finally got his hands on the trophy by keeping Johan Cruyff's Dutch side at bay in the final. Der Kaiser, as was his nickname, joined the elite group of only 3 individuals to win the World Cup as a player and manager, alongside Brazil's Mario Zagallo and France's Didier Deschamps, after he coached his nation to victory in 1990. 5. Gerd Müller. Before Miroslav Klose, there was Gerd Müller, who scored 14 goals in 13 World Cup games and sits behind only Klose and Ronaldo Nazario in the all-time rankings. He was short and stocky but possessed a prodigious leap and was a very deadly finisher inside the box. At the 1970 World Cup, he bagged 2 hat-tricks and 10 goals in total to win the Golden Boot. In 1974, Müller scored the winner to help an unfancied West German side overcome the Netherlands 2-1 in a shock final result. 4. Garrincha. Born in Pau Grande, Brazil, Garrincha came from intense poverty and was partially crippled due to a genetic trait that left him with crooked legs. After gaining fame as a spectacular winger for Brazil, he took center stage after Pelé was injured in the second game at the 1962 World Cup and was instrumental as Brazil lifted a second consecutive Jules Rimet trophy. Nicknamed the Little Bird, Garrincha played a total of 50 matches for Brazil between 1955 and 1966 and netted 12 goals. One of the greatest dribblers ever, Garrincha's life would nosedive into excess alcoholism and pleasure that would lead to his untimely demise at the age of 49. Nonetheless, Brazil never lost an international match with the great Garrincha and Pelé in the lineup. 3. Ronaldo Nazario. The original Ronaldo, as people like to call him, was the most feared striker in world football at club and international level during his prime. Playing in 4 World Cup tournaments with Brazil and winning 2, he could have had 3 winners' medals if not for the sudden illness on the night before the final in '98, which evidently affected his performance. A serious cruciate injury kept him out of Brazil's entire qualification campaign for 2002, but he arrived in Asia with a point to prove and a haircut you'd expect to wake up with after falling asleep drunk at a house party. Making 98 appearances and scoring 62 goals for the Samba Boys from 1994 to 2006, Ronaldo ranks as second for the most all-time goals scored in the World Cup with 15. He is also one of only 3 players to have ever scored 3 goals in 3 separate tournaments alongside Germans Miroslav Klose and Jürgen Klinsmann. 2. Diego Maradona. Maradona played in 4 World Cup sides from 1982 to 1994 and inspired his nation to victory in the 1986 edition. He played every minute of every match in that 86 tournament, scoring 5 goals and making 5 assists to mark the most domineering individual displays in any World Cup before or since. However, in the space of 4 World Cup quarter-final minutes, Maradona sealed his reputation as one of the most controversial and talented figures in football history. His self-proclaimed hand of God, in which he punched the ball over England goalkeeper Peter Shilton and into the net, was quickly followed by the goal of the century, where going the length of the pitch, he majestically weaved through 5 England players to beat Shilton at his near post. Although also captaining Argentina to a World Cup final 4 years later, Maradona failed to reach the astronomical heights of 1986. He was hampered by an ankle injury as Argentina lost out to West Germany in the 1990 final and was sent home in disgrace in the 94 edition for failing a drugs test. 1. Pelé. Edson Arantes do Nascimento, better known to the world as Pelé, was quite simply the best player on the planet during his time. Playing an integral role in 4 World Cup teams with Brazil, Pelé led the Seleção to 3 trophies during that span and did arguably as much as anyone before or since to elevate the prestige of football to the level it currently enjoys around the globe. When Pelé arrived at the 1958 World Cup as an unknown 17-year-old, few opponents would have been concerned. He was the youngest player ever to feature in the competition and he wasn't even fully fit. But once a troublesome knee injury was shaken off, Pelé announced himself to the world in explosive fashion. A hat-trick in the semi-final against France was followed by a brace in the final against tournament hosts Sweden. It started a staggering international career with Brazil, which eventually finished with 77 goals from 92 appearances and 3 World Cup winners' medals. He claimed his second World Cup in 1962, but an injury in the second group game against Czechoslovakia limited his contribution. Brazil was then eliminated in the group stage of the 1966 tournament after losing to Hungary and Eusebio's Portugal. But it was his contribution to that famous 1970 team that puts him above the rest. By then, Pelé was an experienced head in an otherwise young but prodigiously talented Brazil squad and scored 4 goals as they dominated a World Cup like no other nation has ever done before or since.